So I just want to say I'm really honored to be here with Craig Sauvé, a dear friend and a counselor in the riding in the area. With the pause that Donald Trump has announced, the fight is not over. We've got to take the time with this pause, this 30-day pause, to prepare ourselves. So I'm calling on Canada to take a number of steps. We need to make sure we build more of the things that we need in our country, here in our country. We got to build more here. We need to also change the rules around procurement. If we're spending money federally, we're spending public money, it should go towards Canadian companies that hire Canadian employees, and particularly those companies that have unionized employees that get well paid. That's where our public money should go. We need to call back Parliament, and we need to have a package of protections in place for workers that might be impacted. Let's have that ready to go now instead of scrambling if something happens in 30 days. And it's very clear that we need to diversify where we sell our goods. We can't rely on one partner only. It makes us too vulnerable. So we need to look at other ways to diversify where we export, where we sell. And for folks listening, I want to encourage you, and this time what you can do is to buy Canadian, to buy Quebec. When you're buying your products, check the labels. We were doing that just now, verifying that things are Canadian made or made in Quebec so that you are supporting local, you're supporting the industries in our country. We need to boycott anything that's made in the United States during this time. We need to be ready to fight back. We need to be ready to prepare ourselves, and so that we can defend our country and defend what we have here. With that, I'm ready for any questions. Je suis prêt pour vos questions.
What? You want to say something? Say nothing? What did you say that? You got something to say?
I didn't say corrupted bastard, but I said...
Is that what you said?
No, I did not say that.
Who said it?
Somebody behind me said that.
Was it me? Was it you? No. You sure? If it was me, I'd admit it, buddy. Was it you or not?
Let's be really clear. Donald Trump has made a bogus excuse when he talked about fentanyl. As you pointed out, that is not a real issue. The amount of fentanyl coming from Canada to the United States is negligible. The other way around, though, there are massive amounts of illegal drugs and illegal weapons, particularly firearms, that come into Canada from the United States. So that is an excuse that Donald Trump is using. What he has made very clear, he has repeated again and again, is the 51st state. He is attacking our sovereignty. He wants to put economic pressure on our country, and so we need to fight back. And so these 30 days are time for us to prepare, but we can't try to appease Donald Trump. We need to fight back and defend our country and use these 30 days to prepare that defense, to make sure we are ready to fight back and ready to defend ourselves.
Touch a bit on this for boycotting U.S. products. We were at a press conference this morning from the Quebec Union, who has announced that they are launching legal action against Amazon for closing all its warehouses here and mass layoffs. They also asked for all levels of government to forego contracts, cancel contracts with Amazon, and for people to boycott Amazon. Any response, any reaction?
I absolutely agree with the union on this point. What the workers tried to do here in Quebec was to stand up for their rights. They wanted to organize and to unionize to get better wages, which they deserve. This is one of the wealthiest companies in the world, and they don't pay their workers a decent wage. So they wanted to unionize to get fair wages and to protect themselves, safe work conditions. That is a legitimate thing. And in response, Amazon punished these workers by shutting down the factory. So at a minimum, what we need to do as a country is to send a message. You cannot get away with punishing workers this way. We should absolutely cancel all contracts. The federal government has $120 million of contracts with Amazon. They should be immediately canceled. So we're open to looking at better ways that we can work together as a country in a way that goods can flow across different provinces. But let's be clear about what Pierre Poilievre is saying. Pierre Poilievre is basically saying that Quebec should not be able to have its own standards for safety of the environment, its own standards for workers. That is wrong. Quebec should be able to have the ability to set its standards. And so when we look at ways to make it easier for people to sell across provinces, it cannot compromise the ability of provinces to set standards. It can't compromise the protections we have in place for the environment and for workers.
Just on the border security thing, to be clear, are you saying it was a mistake to spend $1 billion on what you're calling a bogus crisis?
Well, the crisis that was raised by Donald Trump is absolutely bogus. It's evidentiary bogus. It's clear that there is no credible threat of drugs, illicit drugs flowing from Canada to the United States the evidence shows that that is not borne out. The evidence shows that that is not a thing. We have good reason to protect our borders for our own national security. We should be protecting our borders from the illicit material that comes from the States to Canada. I'm talking about the illegal firearms and the drugs that come the other way. So protecting our border is for our own good, but it should not be in any way be seen as something that's going to appease Donald Trump when it is a made-up claim that there's any serious or significant threat to the United States coming from Canada. In fact, it is the other way around, and so we should absolutely defend our borders. In fact, the Conservatives cut 1,100 border security officers when they were in power under Harper, and Trudeau did not reverse those cuts. So at a minimum, we need to reinstate those officers to make sure our borders are protected. We need people protecting our border from what's coming in from the States. But this is not going to appease Trump because it was a made-up claim.
Do you support the concessions we made, or should we have just taken the tariffs and retaliated instead?
I think that there are no concessions with the border that will address a bogus claim by Donald Trump. But if we want to take steps on the border to strengthen our border for our own national security, that is a good thing. When it comes to Donald Trump, the only thing that's going to work is to make it clear that if Donald Trump wants to pick a fight with us, it's going to hurt him. We need to target his allies like Elon Musk. I've said, let's shut off the flow of critical minerals. We know we are the only sustainable, real source of critical minerals, and Elon Musk needs those for his company. So let's hit Elon Musk, the billionaire buddy of Donald Trump. I guess it turns out the billionaire buddy of Pierre Poilievre as well. Let's hit him where it counts and stand up and fight for our country.
Do you think the federal government has done enough in response to the tariffs?
I think the announcement of tariffs in response, or retaliatory tariffs, was a good announcement. We need to continue to be ready to fight back. Where the federal government is missing is in those protections for workers. I hear from a lot of workers, and they're like, what's going to happen to my job? If these tariffs go forward, I could lose my job. We already saw contracts canceled in Hamilton for steel workers. So there's a lot of workers in our country right now that are, before they go to sleep at night, laying awake saying, well, what's going to happen to my job? And if my job goes, what's going to happen to my family? How am I going to pay the bills? For those families and those workers, there is no real clear plan in place. And that's why I've said the federal government's got to call Parliament back and put in place a plan, a package of supports for those workers in specific sectors that get targeted. Let's have that plan in place so those workers know they're not going to be left to the side.
How will it protect workers to buy Canadian?
Well, buying Canadian is a part of our fight back against these tariffs. Making that decision to support local industry, making that decision to support the local economy will keep us stronger. It's something we should always have been doing, but making that decision now in the face of tariffs will strengthen our local economy, will strengthen local producers, and we're hoping to send a message with our pocketbook that we're not going to buy American products, and I'm hoping that'll have an economic impact to bolster the message that we are going to fight back and defend our country.